Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Sarah Wong. Our top stories tonight. Carrie Lam orders tougher measures for Kwai Chung Estate as the Omicron outbreak worsens. Hong Kong records over 100 preliminary positive cases today, mostly in Kwai Chung hotspot. And health expert David Hui says the government had to cull hamsters to protect public health. Another building in Kwai Chung Estate will be locked down for 5 days. The remaining blocks will either be sealed off for 1 day or slapped with a compulsory testing notice. But the government will not compensate those who cannot go to work because of the curbs. Isaac Lee has the latest.
The authorities are on high alert after Omicron cases in Kwai Chung Estate jumped 5-fold in just 3 days. Flanked by her top health and housing officials, Chief Executive Carrie Lam announced further measures as the city raced to curb the spread of the highly contagious COVID variants. Residents of Yin Kwai House will be required to stay in their homes for 5 days after about 10 residents tested positive so far. The block was locked down since early this morning. The government will provide residents with 3 meals starting tomorrow. 4 other blocks which are close to Yet Kwai House will be sealed off for 1 day from tonight. Residents of Chin Kwai, Hiu Kwai, Yuk Kwai and Nga Kwai houses will have 1 day to undergo compulsory tests. The remaining 11 blocks in Kwai Chung Estate will be slapped with a mandatory testing notice, but won't be locked down. Yesterday, the government locked down Yet Kwai House for 5 days. The government insisted that a 5-day lockdown is based on scientific evidence, since Omicron only has an incubation period of 3 days. Lam said those who cannot go to work due to the government operation will not be compensated.
I hope that we are acting in concert to tackle this COVID-19 epidemic. At the moment, it is not a question of compensation. It is a question of getting out of the COVID-19 epidemic, especially relating to the Omicron variant, as soon as possible.
She thanks residents for their cooperation and the testing service provider for providing immediate assistance. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
Hong Kong has recorded more than 100 preliminary positive COVID cases today, with health officials warning that infections could rise. Most of the new cases are in 2 blocks in the Kwai Chung public housing estate. Macy Mock with the updates.
Of the more than 100 new preliminary positive cases, most are from the 2 buildings that have been locked down in Kwai Chung Estate. 10 of the 25 locally transmitted cases confirmed today also come from the 2 public housing estates, Yat Kwai House and Yin Kwai House. One is a cleaner in Yat Kwai Estate. Health authorities suspect cleaners could have spread the virus.
As they will walk along each floor and to clean and to collect the rubbish, so then this may contribute to the spread of the illness. Of course, other residents in the block, once they infect, they can also infect other people in the whole blocks.
Chuang said 44 cleaners from Yat Kwai House have been quarantined.
The number of cases is expected to increase because there will be an incubation period for this illness. So once we try to quarantine and isolate all the cases, we hope that the case numbers will drop.
Among the preliminary positive cases is a 49-year-old man who lives in Yat Kwai House and works in Evergreen Nursing Home in Kwai Chung Estate. He takes care of around 50 elderly people who will have to go into quarantine if his case is confirmed. Another preliminary case who lives in Yin Kwai House is a patient care assistant working in the obstetric and gynecology department of Princess Margaret Hospital. One of her colleagues is also preliminary positive. The hospital's antenatal ward has stopped receiving patients and visitors. 20 of the 52 patients tested negative, while health authorities are looking into the other patients. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Residents of the first 2 Kwai Chung Estate blocks hit by a lockdown and testing orders have complained about the arrangement. Here's Macy Mock again.
Residents of Ying Kwai House in Kwai Chung Estate line up for a compulsory COVID test this morning after the government locked down their building at 4 a.m. This man said he only learned about the lockdown as he was about to go to work and he expected to lose 1 day's pay. This elderly woman complained that she had nothing to eat while waiting in line to be tested. The government has said simple food would be provided to residents who are required to stay home until everyone in the building is screened. Yat Kwai House, meanwhile, prepared for a second night under lockdown. This resident said she was not certain when she should leave her home for her daily test. The government gave her breakfast this morning, but she said the noodles were too hard and she has to cook them again. Some residents of Yat Kwai House who are close contacts of confirmed COVID patients were sent to Penny's Bay for quarantine. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
A government advisor has defended the mass culling of hamsters following a suspected animal-to-human transmission. David Hui said the authorities had no choice. Isaac Lee explains.
The tally of COVID-positive environmental samples taken from pet stores has risen to 30 after 2 more shops in Causeway Bay and Taipo were checked. All employees and customers will have to undergo compulsory tests. The government ordered the culling of about 2,000 hamsters after 11 imported from the Netherlands by a pet store chain tested positive for the Delta variant. People who bought one of the small animals after December the 22nd have been instructed to surrender them to the authorities. Some health experts received threatening emails over the decision. But the Chinese university's David Hui said public health is of paramount importance.
I don't think there is any choice. Well, we have good evidence that there is hamster to human transmission. And you can also see that there are also more outlets being detected with PCR positive in the shops. So if the government had not gone ahead with this decision, I think that would have spread the infection much deeper into the community.
Hui added there is a high possibility that the hamsters were infected overseas. He said similar outbreaks can be prevented if hamsters test negative before being allowed entry. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
There were 23 new local COVID cases on the mainland yesterday, the same number as on Thursday. Beijing added 10 infections, 2 Omicron cases in Haidian district, and the rest Delta cases elsewhere in the capital. 2 men were arrested for trying to evade movement control rules and enter Beijing. Neighboring Tianjin recorded 6 infections, while 4 were in Henan. The ongoing outbreaks prompted Harbin in the northeast to test all residents amid the Lunar New Year travel rush. Xi'an, meanwhile, resumed domestic flights after its outbreak stabilized. U.S. health authorities have found that a booster dose of an mRNA vaccine, including Pfizer's, prevents severe illness from the Omicron variant.
Following a 3rd dose, vaccine effectiveness against hospitalization with Omicron increased to 90%, nearly matching the effectiveness against the Delta variant and even higher than vaccine effectiveness after the first 2 doses of the mRNA vaccine. Overall, for those who received a booster dose, had the most protection against emergency room visits, urgent care clinic visits, and hospitalizations.
Less than 64% of Americans are fully vaccinated, with 25% having a 3rd jab. The contagious variant now accounts for 99% of new cases in the United States, which marked 2 years since its first confirmed COVID infection. Since then, the virus has infected over 70 million people in the U.S. and killed more than 860,000. But at least 19 states, including New York, have started to see cases decline after record uptakes. Back in Hong Kong, Yau Tong Station was closed for an hour this afternoon after a platform screen door caught fire. Around 250 passengers were evacuated at around 1 p.m. as MTR staff put out the fire. No one was injured. A preliminary investigation suggests a malfunction. Services on the Kwun Tong line between Tiu King Ling and Kwun Tong were suspended until 3 p.m. 9 people have been arrested after a local retail chain was found selling products that contained a banned cannabis substance. Customs officers deployed this $14 million worth of goods they seized. These included skincare products and pet food which had THC, a substance found in cannabis. The items have all been removed from the shelves. Those arrested were 4 people from the chain store, 4 smaller retailers, and an importer. The arrest followed raids on 2 warehouses and 7 stores earlier this week. Overseas, a Saudi-led airstrike against Yemen has killed at least 70 people and wounded hundreds. The bombardment came after Saudi ally, the United Arab Emirates, vowed to retaliate for a drone attack launched by Yemeni Houthis. Thousands of Yemenis swarmed the country's capital, Sana'a, as outrage boiled over following the latest round of deadly airstrikes spearheaded by Saudi Arabia. Rescuers combed through the rubble with bare hands to look for survivors after a detention center housing migrant workers from Africa was destroyed. The Saudi-led coalition denied targeting the facility, which it claimed was not under humanitarian protection. A separate attack hit a telecommunications center and crippled the internet in Yemen. The Saudi-led strike came days after the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels launched missile and drone assault on the United Arab Emirates, killing 3 people and sending oil prices to a 7-year high.
Any bombardment that targets civilians or that is not careful enough to protect civilians is, of course, also unacceptable. What we need is to stop this vicious circle in which things get escalating one after the other.
Guterres called for a ceasefire. The alliance of oil-rich states armed by the West has been bombarding Yemen for 7 years without being able to defeat the Houthis, who insist that they are the legitimate rulers of the impoverished country. The military operations and the civil war has created the world's largest humanitarian crisis. Millions of children are starving in a desolate country where hospitals, schools, and houses fall victim to frequent bombardment. A painting of Jesus, which Italian Renaissance master Sandro Botticelli titled Man of Sorrows, is expected to fetch more than $40 million at an auction in New York next week.
What's unusual is this device, this invention that Botticelli uses of these grisaille, that is gray and white angels, not with no color, around his head, almost like a halo. In fact, not almost, like a halo. Each is holding a different implement of the Passion. So you have the nails that Christ was nailed into the cross. You have the flail that he was flogged with. You have the ladder that he was taken down from the cross. So it's a kind of amazing idea and image, and reminds you of all the stages of the Passion of Christ.
On to the weather now. Hold on to your umbrella as tomorrow will be mainly cloudy with a few rain patches. Temperatures range between 18 and 21 degrees. Cloudy with rain on Monday before sunny periods return on Tuesday. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for this Saturday night. We'll be back at 10 tonight with more updates. I'm Sarah Wong. Take care and good night.